the way that we live is not for everybody. We're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
I love the way she move it, shake it on me. When she cry for him, and Shawty is the winner. You can tell that Shawty's
on. You know what time it is. It's time to come out.
I love the way she move it, shake it on me.
YouTube, what's going on? It's Juan Gotti here. We have the Washington Commanders live stream. And in today's live stream, I'm back with my guy, Ed Oliver, and Rico from Street Scores. It's been a little minute, fellas, but how we feeling tonight with everything going on? We got a lot to talk about, honestly. How we feeling?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on, man. Offseason, combines coming up, free agencies coming up, draft. So, man, a lot of things on the way for sure.
Yeah, Rico, I know we know this your season right here. That's what you love the most. And then we're finally good. So you can finally make the realistic videos. And unlike years past where it's like, what the heck? Myles Garret to the Washington Commanders, and they was just 3-3. No, get that out of it. Now we actually on the cusp of a Super Bowl team, and Myles Garret wants to come here, all that. Just how you feeling? Because we know this is what you love the most.
Yeah, man. As a GM at heart, man, it's beautiful. I mean, I feel like, first of all, the offseason snuck up on us. I mean, it doesn't feel like the combine shouldn't be in a couple of days. Like, we played way longer into the season than we have, in a long time. So I'm just super excited. And to your point, like when it comes to free agency, like everything's realistic. Anybody's in play. The top names of any position is in play. Of course, we're not going to get all of them, but I think we'll at least get a couple of guys that like we really, really want. Maybe even a trade. So I'm super excited. And then, hey, we're picking 29th in the draft, which makes doing mock drafts a little weird, but it's a great thing. I'll take this any day over what we've been doing.
Nah, yeah, definitely. And I do want to say, like, for a couple things. One, as they say, get used to playing primetime games, etc. I want y'all to get used to waiting for our season to be over to February. So then somewhat on the front side of the offseason, it feels shorter than normal. Like back then, we would be prepping for mock drafts back in December. So it's like the offseason would feel so long, you know what I'm saying, and drawn out. But now our off seasons aren't going to really get kicked off until hopefully consistently February, man. And that, and then also picking 29th, like now it sucks. But draft night is going to be even worse, bro. Just having to wait 3 hours just to pick. And then something tells me Adam Peters is going to trade back that pick as well. Like, just imagine having to sit through all those picks just 3 hours. And then we eventually trade back. But as you mentioned, like, I would take that any day of the week over the past, especially knowing us. We would end up normally picking 15, 16. So it really wouldn't even be like a true game changer. So I'm definitely excited for where we're at. And I'm going to try my best. And, fellas, you could also budge with any topics you want. But, of course, I don't like to keep you here too long. So we're going to try to cover everything. But there's a lot of things to cover. And I first want to start with our own, okay? Because I know we're going to spend a lot of time talking about free agents and potential trades for guys like that. But I don't know if you guys checked out the potential five moves that could be made, whether it's like cutting Andrew Wiley, restructuring Marshawn Lattimore, extending Terry McLaurin, which I feel like is honest, a move that we should do because it frees up a lot of cap space for this season if we do plan on making some big moves. So I'll start with you, Rico. Is there any move that you think before we get to trades and free agents are guys that we need to take care first?
Yeah, I mean, of course, Terry extension would be beautiful. I feel like just based off of like last year when we gave Samuel Cosmi the extension, it was like right before the regular season. And so just based off of history, maybe we'll wait to do Terry McLaurin's until we're like that close to the regular season as well. But I would love to just go ahead and give him his money. I would do it today. Go ahead and extend him today. He just got married, just as a big like thank you for sticking it out with all of these bad quarterbacks, for showing up when we needed you this season. Just go ahead and give him his money now. But based off history, I'm not expecting that to be done because I guess they want to make sure they have the money that they need to play around in free agency, whatever they need to do in the draft. And then they're like, okay, after that, we'll see what money we have for you long term and things like that. And then re-signings, man, I definitely want to bring back a few guys. Of course, Tressway off rip. I would like to bring back Jeremy Chin at safety, but I feel like a lot of the guys that we we can talk about as re-signings, there are options out there that we could bring in as free agents as well from other teams. I would like to bring back some of the guys that contributed a lot last year, but it just depends on where the money's at. I mean, do you want to jump aboard? Are you willing to take a little bit less money, give the team somewhat of a discount to be a part of what we're potentially building here as a Super Bowl contender? I mean, one game away from the Super Bowl. So it's going to be really interesting. I would love to bring back as many guys as possible from last year, but I already know that's more than likely not going to happen with a few guys. Just Marcus Mariota's probably going to go somewhere else and get more money than what we're willing to offer him. So, things are going to get a little chaotic, but I'm excited. Either way, in Adam Peters, I trust.
Definitely, Ed. And before you go, I'm gonna just give you a little bit of I guess a couple options on top of what you already have. So I only really said that because it was basically saying 5 moves that could save us $63 million, and that's why I brought up the extension of Terry and cutting Andrew Wiley, and it says extending Marshawn Lattimore or trade/cutting Jonathan Allen, which I think is a foregone conclusion. I could be wrong on that, but it makes too much sense not to let him go. And it's I'm thankful for what JA did, but he's for what we can get for letting him go, it just makes too much sense for me. So out of those couple options, Ed, or anything else that you want to add on, that you may bring to the table as far as that discussion?
Yeah, as far as Wiley, I don't see them cutting Wiley because you got to have a replacement for him. So that's the biggest thing at right tackle. I know he's been up and down or whatever. He had one of his best seasons last year, so I don't see him getting released. I know there's been some Marshawn Lattimore smoke about possibly releasing him or cutting him or whatever. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either. You just traded a 3rd round pick for him. So I know he had an up and down 4 or 5 games, however many games he played. The Lions game, he had a good game. The Buccaneers, he had a bad game. A.J. Brown, he struggled in both games. The Saints game, he had a decent game. They didn't throw the ball his way, but you still got to see what he's got, especially with a full healthy offseason, where he gets more acclimated with Joe Witt Jr., his defense. You got to give him more of an opportunity, more of a chance for sure. Terry, yeah, get that extension done, man. Pay that guy. Give him a 3-year extension or whatever needs to be done. You got to keep him in the building. Keep that guy happy, man. He just had an all-pro season, 12 touchdowns. Was it 13 touchdowns? Just set the franchise record. So whatever Terry asks for, he deserves it for sure. And then as far as re-signing guys, yeah, Jeremy Chin, I would like to see him back. Who else? Zach Ertz, I'll probably bring him back. 1-year deal, see what he's got. Bobby Wagner, I like to see him back too. So there's a couple guys I would like to bring back for sure that are free agents. And then, of course, De'Ami Brown, Noah Brown, OZ, Noah I. Like, there's some tough decisions that are going to have to be made, especially at the wide receiver room. Do you keep any of the Browns? Do you keep any of Noah Brown or De'Ami Brown? Which one do you keep, or do you keep any of them? Do you revamp that wide receiver room to the point where you bring in 2 receivers, trade for one, sign one, draft one? Like, there's a lot of things Adam Peters could do with the wide receiver room that I'm intrigued to see. Like, I love what De'Ami did at the end of the season, but you got to look at it both ways. Like, throughout the majority of the season, he was more of like a screen. He was our best screen catcher, and that was really it for the most part. But he woke up in the playoffs. So can he continue that? I saw a report where there are going to be teams interested in him, like the Patriots and some other teams. So he may have a big market. I don't think he's going to get a lot of money, but there may be other teams that may want to pay him $2 million than what Adam Peters is willing to pay for De'Ami Brown. So that could be an interesting situation right there. So I'm really looking at the wide receiver room for free agents and Noah, what they decide to do with Noah I too.
Yeah, definitely, man. No, that's a good point, especially for my guy Noah Igbenogany, because I felt like he played really well, way better than what we expected. He's a former 1st-round pick, and he's only 25 years old, so I feel like that's a no-brainer to bring back. I know a lot of people disagree with me on this topic, but I'm a fan. Even though I wouldn't mind upgrading the cornerback room, I'm a fan of running it back with the same 3 that we had and just adding depth behind those guys, because I definitely expect Marshawn Lattimore to be much better. You see A.J. Brown doing the media spill and can't stop talking about Marshawn Lattimore. So I can't wait for Lattimore to get back right so he can kind of get back in a sense. And I know a lot of people want to just push Mike Sanders still back inside because that's what he was drafted in, but I want to keep him out there because I felt like he was really good in that position last year. So there is quite a few things that we can do defensively, but obviously nothing bigger than edge rusher, if you ask me. We're going to get to the draft a little bit later, but continuing on with the free agent talk and trade talk and stuff like that, I do want to propose this question to you guys, and you can always fill in other free agent edge rushers, Hassan Reddick as well. But I made a video on the reunite with Chase Young potential because it's out there. I don't know if we're interested in Chase Young, but he is a free agent. He's honestly, statistically, guys, in my opinion, outside of his rookie year, he's coming off of his best year. Now, I don't know how much Chase Young or New Orleans Saints football you've consumed outside of our one game, but technically, he's coming off of his best year. He played in all 17 games. Would that be somebody that you're interested in? I'll start with you, Ed, and if not Chase Young, because my whole thing is, hey, I would love Myles Garrett and some more, like, you know what I'm saying, or a game-changing pass rusher and another person. Like, that's how much I would love to just continue to add to this depth, although we already have Dorrance Armstrong, and I think we may re-sign Dante Fowler. And I'll start with you, though. Chase Young reunite or what?
No, I'm going to Chase Young, but somebody griping, he brought up Dante Fowler. I would like to see Dante Fowler back, but to get to Chase Young, I was honestly just thinking about him yesterday or today, and I do think his game has matured. I see what you're saying on that. I think, you know, he still doesn't finish plays a lot, but he still gets a lot of pressures. Like this was his, other than his rookie year, this was his best year. Like, of course he had 2 sacks against us, but like he was impactful in some games. He was getting pressures. He was playing with effort. The motor was there. I do remember the Broncos game where he kind of like laid down and, you know, kind of looked Albert Hainsworthy with no effort for the most part. But I mean, I got to give him credit. Like he was what, like top 5 in pressures this year or something like that. Like he had a good season, but I still just have a bad taste of, you know, like some of the things that happen. Like I'm not a big, like, you gotta be at OTAs, but you know, clearly it was important to run. Clearly everybody was there. Everybody was there except for Chase and Montez. We didn't really have a problem with Montez because we knew Montez what he was going to do every Sunday. But with Chase, it was kind of like you just didn't know. And honestly, like the whole family feud thing and, you know, the money's going to be there and stuff like that. Some of the comments that he made were definitely, you know, you definitely raised the eyebrow some of that stuff, you know. So the whole family feud, I get it. You want to make your money and stuff, but, you know, how important was the game? And him being the number 2 pick and not living up to the generational talent or franchise changing guy was super disappointing. But I do think he's fully healthy. Like the knee injury was worse than just a normal ACL tear. I will say that too. Then he had the neck injuries come back from that. He was 7th in pressure. He had 66 pressures this last season. What do you have, like 5.5 sacks? He had 7 sacks on the season. So no, he had a good season, man. I give him his credit. Like, I know the fan base for the most part hates on Chase Young, but he had a decent season. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, he had a bad season. Like, he had a good season. He had an impactful season. Like, he's on the Jadeveon Clowney route where he's gonna have a bunch of 1-year deals. He's gonna be on like 10 different teams in 10 years, or five seasons. Gonna be on 5 different teams. Like that's the type of time that he's on. That's the type of career trajectory that he's on right now. So I'm happy for him, man. I'm happy wherever he goes, but I just don't see it. Adam Peters was there in San Fran when Chase was there, and they kind of had problems with him there too. Like there was like rumors or reports about them wanting to bench him and stuff like that. Like I think Cleveland Farrell was getting just as many snaps as Chase Young and whatnot. So I just think off of that history alone, but I highly doubt they sign him, man. To be honest, I really do. And Josh Harris was a part of the thinking to trade him. Like, who was the guy that was here that was like a Ravens GM, not the GM, but he was like
sorta or something like that.
Something like that. I know Street Scores made a couple of videos about him, and then he left like right before the season started or something like that. And I know he was a big part of making the decision to trade Chase and Montez. And I think Josh was full on board with trading Chase. So I just think off of that alone, I don't think they're gonna bring him back, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a really good point right there. I mean, you probably already touched on it, but we already have our eyes set on Myles Garrett, and a lot of media people, just like us fans, we think we're gonna get him, and a lot of media people think the trade's gonna end up happening. But if it doesn't go down and it's not Myles Garrett, who is it? Is it Hassan Reddick? Is it obviously Dante Fowler, but I think you need more than just Dante Fowler if you bring him back. You need someone that is a game changer, in my opinion. So, and before I continue with that, I did want to also say Chase Young for me isn't my first, second, maybe even third option, but we struggled in the run game last year. That's the big reason why I want Chase Young, or at least mind bringing him back along with somebody else, because he may not get pressure on the quarterback consistently. He may be lazy in that aspect, or may not have a good tool bag in a sense to, get pressure on the quarterback, but he could stop some run. And that's simply what his strong suit is. But anybody specifically, Hassan Reddick or anybody like that may interest you, and then Rico, you can go.
Was that for me? I mean, edge rusher, I feel like re-sign Dante Fowler off rip no matter what. Like, especially since like Spot Track is estimating that he'll probably be like $5.2 million a year. So I would just bring back Dante Fowler just off rip, regardless of what we do. If we go trade for Myles Garrett, anybody, I'm going for Dante Fowler. And then beyond that, if we don't trade for like a Myles Garrett, because since we're picking 29th in the draft, I don't, just off of positional value, like great edge rushers that can contribute day one. Maybe there'll be like some really talented, high ceiling, but raw edge rushers available at 29. But I'm not expecting us to get like a day one starter at edge rusher at 29. So I think we need to do whatever it takes to get at least one or two starting edge rushers in the offseason, like in free agency right now. So I would probably get like more than one. Like maybe you give Hassan Reddick a flyer. And then you also, I think Khalil Mack is very safe. And I've seen some people that don't really like the idea of Khalil Mack, but I just feel like if we got 20 games out of Zach Ertz, Zach Ertz was labeled as like injury prone and everything before getting us. He was our second leader receiver and played in 20 games, whatever the management they had going on with him not practicing on Wednesdays or whatever it took. This staff knows how to, kind of give everybody like a little bit of a fountain of the youth type of effect. So I would definitely go and get Khalil Mack. Again, bring back Dante Fowler regardless of what we do, even if we trade for Myles Garrett. And then maybe I'm even taking a flyer on a cheap option, maybe like a Hassan Reddick with a high ceiling. The only problem with Hassan Reddick, though, is that when he's at his best, he's an elite pass rusher. But to Juan's point, we need some run stopping. But I feel like that's what Khalil Mack, even though he had a down year according to sacks last year, he was still arguably the best edge setting, run stopping edge rusher in the entire NFL, even at his age. And I think, probably at this point in his career, he'll probably just do like 1 year deal after 1 year deal. So maybe we sign him to a 1 year deal this year. He balls out, sign him to another one next year. So I want Khalil Mack for sure, regardless of what happens. And then if we're not talking about trading for Myles Garrett, I would go and get somebody else as well, like a Hassan Reddick or whoever else we may be looking at. And then keep Dorrance Armstrong, add Dante Fowler in there. And I think that would be a really healthy rotation. And then maybe you draft like a high ceiling, super athletic guy, maybe like in the second, third, or fourth round or something like that to groom for whenever Khalil Mack is done playing.
Yeah, I like that thought process. But guys, we're doing this a little bit ghetto for a second, or at least I am. So my headphones died. So I joined the stream off my phone and got the headphones playing. So if I'm a little delayed, like listening wise, that may be why for the time being, because my headphones died. That's my apologies. But we seem to be fine right now. It just says like I got a news feed right now.
I wouldn't have known if you didn't say it. So that's smooth. You going crazy. I rock with it.
But yeah, though, Rico, I agree with a lot that you said, especially on the Khalil Mack point. Remember Ron Rivera, his whole thing was, we don't want to get too old. That's why I went wrong in Carolina. So a lot of the veterans like Thomas Davis, Morgan Moses, he ended up cutting, which they probably would have played better than a lot of the guys that we had, young guys start at the time. Dan Quinn kind of went about it a different route, and he kind of showed us, hey, veterans are still, a part of this team, and they still are required to have success. That's why you see Zach Ertz stepping up in big time moments, because he's been there, done that. Bobby Wagner as well, one of our, if not our best linebacker next to Frankie Louisville. So I say that to say I'm all on board for any veteran that can come in and produce. And yeah, he had a down year in sacks wise, but he's just a year removed from 17 and a half sacks at the age of like 33. So we know it's still somewhat in there. And as you mentioned, the usage of rest and how we did with managing these veteran guys, I think this would be a dream location for some of these vets and like a Khalil Mack that can come in and still produce. So I definitely agree with both of you on that. Now, guys, let's move on to arguably another super important position, and you maybe rank this higher, and that is the wide receiver position. Obviously, we know we cannot go into the next season with the rotation that we had: De'Ami Brown, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, just Jamison Crowder. Even though I love what J.C. Ice did at times, we know desperately we need an upgrade at the wide receiver position. So, Ed, I'm gonna start with you on this one. What would you do with the wide receiver position, and how do you ultimately see it planning out, especially after we now got the news that T. Higgins most likely will be franchise tagged, and Chris Godwin's working on a long-term deal with the Bucs. So those were like the top free agent guys. There's still some quality veterans out there, but those were the two guys that a lot of us wanted. I wanted Chris Godwin, but it's probably not going to happen, obviously. So how do you see it planning out, and what would you do?
I would, as far as bringing back some of the guys that are already here, I would bring back maybe one of the, like I said, one of the Brown receivers, one of the last name Brown receivers, Noah Brown or De'Ami. Most likely, I would try to bring back De'Ami. I would try to bring back De'Ami only because of the way he ended the season. I do like Noah Brown, but his injury history is concerning. And then you look at the free agency route, man. Like you brought up, T. Higgins is going to get franchise tag. Chris Godwin, they're not going to let him leave the building. They love Baker Mayfield loves Chris Godwin. Like he throws him the ball just as much as he does Mike Evans. There's some games where he'll throw the ball to Chris Godwin more than he will Mike Evans. So they're not going to let him walk. They're going to try to sign him to another deal. You look at free agency, man. It's not a lot of guys after those two guys. I mean, there's some solid players, but of course, we wanted the top two receivers. After that is Stephon Diggs, who personally, I know he's from the DMV, went to good counsel, all that good stuff. But I have a lot of concerns about his character, man. I mean, and now he's dating Cardi B, and you see him on TMZ and stuff like that. So I'm just concerned. Maybe a 1-year deal. You can't deny the talent. I mean, the guy's a legit receiver. He's been a legit receiver his whole career coming out of Maryland. So a 1-year deal for him. I think he's on the Odell Beckham trajectory where he's starting to become Hollywood and whatnot. So those are my thoughts on Stephon. And Stephon Diggs is 31. So he's 31. Keenan Allen, 32. Amari Cooper, I like Amari Cooper a lot, so I would be fine with signing him. And then you look at DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, it makes sense because of the whole Cliff Kingsbury connection. Then Hollywood Brown. A lot of people are trying to talk themselves into Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton isn't bad, but it's a middle tier guy. It's just mid, and I feel like you gotta get a better number two next to Terry. And like, yes, we can draft a guy. Luther Burden, is he going to be there 29? Is Trey Harris going to be there at number 29? Some other guys like, but you want a proven commodity next to Terry. Like you want a legit veteran number two receiver that you can help your young quarterback out, your young top 5 quarterback in the league, Jaden Daniels. So Hollywood Brown is another name. I know people love Nick Westbrook-Akina with a passion. So be ready for him. But, like I said, Nick Westbrook-Akina is not a number 2 receiver, in my opinion. I think he's a really, really, really good number 3. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. I'm not too high on those guys either. Are they going to be upgrades from what we have? Yeah, they'll be upgrades. But I just feel like, I just had higher hopes at the number 2 wide receiver position. Garrett Wilson, nobody has said he's been available. He hasn't officially requested a trade. Same thing with DK Metcalf, because a lot of people were talking about DK, but DK hasn't requested out. The Seahawks haven't said they're going to trade him. So it's just a lot of like stuff that we want to happen, but is it realistic? And it hasn't happened yet. I know a lot of trades happen in free agency. Some stuff may happen during the combine. We know how guys like to talk. GMs talk to each other at the combine, coaches, whoever. So things may shake at the combine. We'll see what happens. Adam Peters has a press conference tomorrow, so we'll see what he says there. But I know it's a long-winded answer because the wide receiver position is so important to me, and Terry needs another guy next to him, and Jaden needs another receiver out there. So Cooper Kupp, not high on. Deebo Samuel, not high on. They both should be released. So if you straight up just sign one of them, sure, it is what it is. But to have them as your number 2 guy, even as your number 2, I'm not high on those guys. All the guys that I really named on the list, but I think they will be upgrades from what we had. And of course, we got to attack the trenches. But those are my thoughts on receiver, man. Like I really want to see what Adam does at receiver, man. That's like the position I really want to see. Because Debo, I could go on and on and on about Debo. He's overweight. He's out of shape. He cries. Gets on Twitter, complains about the ball. Then when he gets the ball, he drops it. Do we want a legit receiver or more of like a gadget kind of guy? So those are my thoughts on Debo, and then Adam Peters, a connection there too. So, but I'll let you guys go because I know it's going for a little while.
Yeah, Rico, it's all good, man. That's the position. We see how passionate you is about that position, and I agree with you 100%. So, Rico, I'm gonna let you go ahead, handle that. Then I'll give my little spill at the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most confusing. Like, no matter what you talk about in the video, you're gonna have so many people disagreeing with you on this position probably than any other position that we're trying to solve. Like when it comes to offensive line, edge rusher, all of these needs that we have, I feel like wide receiver is like the most controversial, where no matter who you like, there's a crowd of people waiting to hate your take. I mean, it's up in the air. Like Ed said, this is probably the most intriguing position group where I'm like, Adam Peters, what you got in store for us here, right? Because I mean, to Ed's point, a lot of the guys that we want may not even necessarily be available. And then the guys that are available, there's so many things that you can nitpick about them. And it's just all over the place. I just know it needs to be addressed. And I would definitely prefer if it's addressed in free agency, because I'm waiting to the 29th pick, similar to edge rusher. I'm not sure if you're going to get like a true automatic. We know day one can start wide receiver 2. You may be able to get a really good one that can eventually grow into a great wide receiver 2, maybe, best case scenario mid-season, maybe by his second year or something like that. But I want to make sure we have a guy week 1 we know for a fact is going to go out there and take some of the pressure off of not only just Terry McLaurin, but make things easier for Jaden Daniels. So I can see, like, if we go to Deebo Samuel or Cooper Kupp route, I don't think we'll be done there. I feel like that will be in addition to another name that we're looking for. And Chris Godwin, I would love to get him. But to y'all point, I don't think the Buccaneers are going to let him go. Like y'all said, the Buccaneers throw to him more than they throw to Mike Evans some games. I think they're gonna do whatever it takes to re-sign him. Again, we haven't heard, like y'all said, we haven't heard much about DK Metcalf or anything. Like that's been more so on our end, and we haven't necessarily heard things from the Seahawks or even DK Metcalf's in on a lot of that stuff. So, like, who's even actually available? I would love to go get T. Higgins, and there were reports that the Bengals were like going to tag him, but the franchise tag window open, it hasn't happened yet. So maybe he will be available. We'll see. So I don't know. But you got to be prepared because if you go and get a T. Higgins and everybody's trying to outbid each other for him, you're going to probably miss out on a combination of other names at other positions because you signed T. Higgins, because he's going to eat up a lot of cap space. He is about to dominate the free agency period cap space. I know his agent is so excited about these next 2 weeks coming up. So T. Higgins, if you're going to go get him, be prepared to, spend big money for him. And then, that's going to limit the amount of cap space you have to address other positions. Because I feel like offensive line is an underrated position of need, but wide receiver, we got to have somebody, even before I feel like the draft hits, we got to have somebody that we know is a great number 2, better than anything that we had last year opposite of Terry McLaurin. You good?
Hold on, guys. My fault. Look, I'm all over the place. Bro, listen. Even my freaking my phone just died, so it's on the charger. That is too. So it's like, my bad, man. I don't know what's going on over here, but hey, look,
dirty, man.
We're gonna rock out with these as long as they survive until that phone come back over. Nah, I definitely agree with a lot that you both said, especially with the wide receiver position. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm on a different side with SD. I don't know, it may be a little bit Merlin biasness, it might be, but I genuinely do think he's at a different point of his career now. I don't know this to be true, but you got to think about it. He's normally used to being an all-pro guy. He goes to Houston, set to have a historic, I guess, tandem with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and CJ Stroud, and then ACL tear, and he's not getting no younger. And I'm sure he has all the accolades, all the statistics to be a Hall of Famer. Only thing he's missing is that Super Bowl ring. So I think he may be at a different time mentally, maybe. This is my guess, and he's probably a little bit more mature, and he will come to a place where he knows he's going to win, probably get the ball. But who knows? I've been seeing that Trayvon Diggs has been trying to recruit him, which is not a surprise, his brother, so he could go to Dallas. But I'm different. I want Stephon Diggs, man. I want one of these veteran guys to go along with somebody else. I genuinely don't think there's nothing out there unless like it's a T. Higgins or somehow by miracle we get a Stephon Diggs. I don't know how y'all feel about. I guess I've been hearing a lot about Trey Harris, the guy out of Ole Miss. It seems as if Ole Miss breeds AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Bills. Like, are those the only receivers they go for? I'm sure you know more SEC than me, Rico. But it seems like they have that one build because Trey Harris is just as big as a DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, and a lot of people think that's what we need as well. So I don't know how you feel about that per se. Maybe Keenan Allen. Go ahead.
As a Georgia Bulldog, Trey Harris is a headache. I feel like he's going to be overlooked due a lot of different things like injuries, and Ole Miss just wasn't great as an overall team, so a lot of people may not have paid attention to him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Harris ends up like 3 years from now one of the better receivers from the draft class, just off of the ceiling. To your point, like the athleticism, the AJ Brown, the DK Metcalf type of like freakish athleticism for no reason that he has built into him.
Yeah, and then now that you brought that up, it just dawned on me. A lot of people maybe forgot about this guy, and he could be a sleeper. Not saying that you put all your eggs in a basket on him, but Torrey Holton from Colorado State, who torched Colorado and made his name known that 2 seasons ago. I had my eye on him like since then. He could be a sneaky guy that we get maybe a little bit later in the draft. Again, not someone that you rely on to go into the season with and feel comfortable with, but he could be a sneaky guy that ends up getting here or getting on a team and potentially growing into something special. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing spectacular in the wide receiver market. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins, I've been hearing his name as well. I'm not that high on Hollywood Brown. I maybe y'all a little bit different. I heard you Ed talking about it, so maybe he could be something. But there's just nothing major that would excite me outside, of the top two guys. So I guess we'll have to turn to the draft on that specific point. Now moving over to another offensive weapon and pass catcher position, obviously tight end. Love what we got out of Zach Ertz. We want him back, but we've been hearing about, or at least I've been hearing about Kyle Pitts. Rico, you know anything about that? Aiden, know anything about that? How do y'all feel about potentially making a move in the tight end market, whether it's trade or also draft?
Kyle Pitts is a darn good player. Yes, he hasn't lived up to the hype or the generational talent hype that he had coming out of Florida for sure. But he's had some good seasons, man. I was there at the Falcons game when we beat them in overtime, and he had that huge catch to tie the game. Like, that was a big play. The one thing about Zach that I would like to improve on, especially at the tight end position, is yak ability. No yak Zach. I love Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz had a heck of a season, especially for being his age. He had a great season. I mean, he made some big plays for us, so I wouldn't mind bringing Zach back. But if we can upgrade, for sure. Kyle Pitts, he has had some moments where, he's been disappointing, but he's had some big games too. He had 2 touchdowns against the Buccaneers, so he's had some good seasons. He's not a bust, in my opinion. Has he had a disappointing career? Has he lived up to the hype? Sure, he has not, but he's still very, very talented. Now, I do remember the article that came out, saying that Washington may look for Kyle Pitts and Deebo Samuel and stuff like that. So I think it would take maybe a third or a fourth. I personally wouldn't give up a third. I would possibly give up a fourth for Zach Ertz. Honestly, any way you can upgrade the receiving room, the tight end room, any way you can upgrade the skill, running back, I don't give a crap. As long as you can upgrade this talent for Jaden Daniels and make the game easier for him, like you see other teams in the league helping their rookie quarterback out, especially on a rookie contract, like, this is the time to do it. So I wouldn't be upset if we gave up a fourth. I mean, like, if you give up a fourth for Kyle Pitts, you're most likely are not going to get a player as good as Kyle Pitts with a fourth round pick. So the odds of getting a player at his caliber in the 4th round, if you look at it that way, I think it would be a good trade. So the biggest question is, are the Falcons going to trade him? Is he really available? Because they have a rookie quarterback that they want to help. So does it make sense for the Falcons to give away talent when you want to help out Michael Penix? So once again, that's another thing, like, how realistic is his availability?
That's a really good point right there. That I just thought about. I mean, I'm not gonna say I forgot about Michael Penix, but I would have had to thought about, oh snap, that is their quarterback now. Then it would have went back to me. Oh yeah, he cooked us in that game. He's gonna be really good. So no, that is a really good point bringing up there. That kind of almost changes my mind on potentially getting them because they don't want to. They're building to be better. They don't want to strip weapons away from him. It's not like Kirk Cousins is still there. Rico, what do you think about just the tight end position as a whole and this Kyle Pitts potential trade? And is there anybody else that we may not be thinking about that could potentially be added to this team alongside Zach Ertz?
Yeah,
if he's back.
Depending on the, and I'm just assuming Zach Ertz will be back. I mean, he was just too dependable. Again, to get 20 games out of him, and then he was just like we expected, he was the safety blanket for Jaden Daniels. I didn't expect him to be our second leading receiver, but that just proves even more why we definitely need to bring him back. He better not be the second leading receiver this season, but I still want him a part of the offense. But yeah, assuming that Zach Ertz comes back, I would still, depending on what the price is, I would like to go get a Kyle Pitts. To y'all point, just the athleticism, he hasn't lived up to the hype, like Ed said. But I feel like if anybody can fix it and maximize his potential, it's not only Cliff Kingsbury at offensive coordinator, but Jaden Daniels at quarterback. And I just feel like if there's anywhere that Kyle Pitts could succeed, it will be with it. Like if Kyle Pitts can't ball out and reach his potential here in this environment, he can't do it anywhere. And I just feel like I would take that chance on him because, for tight end, I'm just looking for a Zach Ertz successor, really. We may not necessarily need a guy that can go out there and ball out immediately, even though it would be nice because, to y'all's point, Zach Ertz doesn't provide a lot of yak. It would be nice if we had a tight end that was like a yak threat as well, to where defenses had to focus on him a lot more. Maybe we could run some 12 personnel, and both tight ends are options, to throw the ball to from Jaden Daniels in any given moment. So I'm definitely looking for at least a successor to Zach Ertz, but hopefully, a Robin to Zach Ertz being Batman in the tight end position as well. So I definitely feel like we need to go and find somebody. This is a really good tight end draft class, but I just feel like a lot of the guys are going to be taken fairly early. Because I feel like defensive tackle, you're going to get a starter, probably even in the third, maybe even fourth round. This is a really good tight end class, but I just feel like a lot of those guys are going to be gone by the second round. So I feel like you need to snag at least one of those, especially if you don't trade for a Kyle Pitts or get some sort of a starter in free agency. But from what I remember from just glancing over it a while ago, I don't really see too many tight end options in free agency. Just re-sign Zach Ertz, maybe re-sign Kyle Pitts. If you don't, definitely try to attack tight end. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because we just drafted Ben Sinnott last year in the second round. But I mean, the talent in this tight end class, I don't know. I feel like you will regret not getting at least one of these guys.
That's very interesting. I've seen a lot of people talk about Coast and Loveland from Michigan, I believe it is. I could see us definitely doing something like that in the tight end room because I think what a lot of people, and it's not hard once you, at least for me, because we all know football. Obviously, are we experts? Do we claim to be experts? No. But I think soon as you turn, you may not know who a guy is at all. Since we watched so much football over the years that it's like you watch maybe, let's just say one highlight film or one college tape film, whether it's highlights or it's actual film. You get a synopsis of what a guy genuinely is. After that one thing, you could easily say, oh, this guy's this guy. Well, he reminds me of that guy just because we watched so much ball. And I think it took me just one look at Ben Sinnott and say, oh, yeah, that's Kyle Juszczyk right there. I think one little clip, one little, I should say, highlight package. Say, oh, yeah, that's Kyle Pitt or Kyle Juszczyk. How they were using him. Was it K-State or was it TCU? I think it's K-State. How they were using him. Yeah. And it's just the lack of usage that he was here in Washington this year. You can chalk up a lot of it to rookie season, but that may just be ultimately their plan. I mean, when you heard Adam Peters on the phone with him, we say, man, we heard a lot about you, and when he used you similar to how we use, Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco. So although we as fans wanted him to potentially be this tight end one potentially, their whole mindset was, hey, you're going to be Kyle Juszczyk. So they obviously are open to adding more to this tight end room, and they're still searching for their George Kittle and Dre Greenlaw, who maybe we take a chance on. Shaq Thompson just got informed that he'll be released as well. Maybe we take a chance on him as well. There's some guys that we could talk about on the defensive side of the ball, but I just say that to say Adam Peters genuinely wants to build this team like the 49ers. That's why he always compares everyone to a 49er. And that's what I say that to say I don't see Ben Sinnott being the tight end one this year. Maybe he eventually grows into that, but I definitely expect, as you just brought up, Rico, that this tight end class is too deep to really pass up on. So we could definitely add something to there. And as you and Ed both said, like we need somebody that's younger. I love what Zach Ertz did this year, but just faster, younger, more explosive is that's really what we need. We haven't had that since Jordan Reed, maybe I'm forgetting the guy, but maybe since Jordan Reed we haven't had a guy of that caliber. And I think having that caliber tight end with the Jaden Daniels would just be outstanding. But the last two things we'll talk offensively as we're getting across the 40-minute mark, so then we have enough time to talk defensively. It's running back. I seen both of you guys is talking about it. Brian Robinson. Reports came out from JP Finley that he most likely won't be the running back one, and we don't need JP Finley to tell us that. We watch it, but it's obviously he's an insider, so he knows a little bit more than all of us because he's there. But we're just watching the games, you can kind of see Brian Robinson kind of just isn't really the best fit for this offense, or he just isn't, what we want him or thought he could be, thought he could turn out to be. And the crazy thing is about that is early on in the season, I was saying, man, we lost a couple games because we didn't have Brian Robinson. Like that Ravens game, I think would have been a different outcome if he was able to establish some type of run game because Brian Robinson didn't play. And then as we got later into the season, he kind of got into the drop. I was at the Tennessee Titans game. That's the last time I seen Brian Robinson go crazy and have a good game. Since then, we really haven't seen B-Rob be that Brian Robinson. And obviously they see it as well, and they definitely look to replace him. And we've been saying that all season long. We need a change of pace back, faster back, a guy that is going to be a home run hitter. It doesn't make it no better. It doesn't help his case any much better that Jahmyr Gibbs are going crazy. Saquon Barkley's running around. Josh Jacobs. It was just rejuvenation. Even if that's even a word, I probably just made that up. But this rejuvenance. To the running back. I'm making up words, but I think y'all get what I'm trying to say.
You good.
We're just gonna make it simple because I know what I want to say, but clearly I can't say it. This new life that's brought back to the running back position this past year with all the guys going crazy. We're looking at like we need one of those guys. So, Rico, I'll start with you on this one. You can, I know you already talked about it. But just talk a little bit about the Brian Robinson situation and how you would address it and how do you think they're ultimately going to address it. And, because running back was really just piss poor this whole season with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler and Jerry McNichols. I like what Eck did, but I feel like he was more of a better pass catcher than he was a pure runner. He was our best running back, but him and Brian Robinson, I feel like were better as pass catchers than they were actual running backs because Jaden Daniels was our leading rusher in the biggest games, biggest spots. So we obviously need to upgrade that position mightily.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need somebody the defense is at the game plan towards. Because, right now, every defense, when we come into a game, is just how do we stop Jaden Daniels? We'll try to focus on Terry McLaurin a lot as well, but the whole focus is Jaden Daniels. Brian Robinson, you don't necessarily have the game plan for him or Austin Eckler because they don't have that home run speed. So even if they do break through the line, when in doubt, you can corral them before they get to the end zone. And I do feel like that is something that we need to force defenses to think about. When we're going against, to your point, like the Saquon Barkleys, the Jahmyr Gibbs, even the Bijan Robinsons, that fear of, man, if we don't have sound gap responsibility, this guy can take it all the way to the end zone. And I feel like we need a guy like that. And that's what I like Brian Robinson. I like Austin Eckler. I would love for them to continue to play for us, but I feel like we do need a true running back one that, absolutely scares opposing defenses to the point that they don't know if they need to focus on Jaden Daniels or the running back. I feel like our offensive line deserves a lot of blame for how we ran the ball, especially the second half of the season as well. I feel like running back deserves some blame, but I feel like offensive line deserves some blame as well. So we definitely need to upgrade that. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about that. But running back, I think we definitely need a home run hitter. Even looking at free agency, and I don't really see anybody that's like a true definitive RB1. Like you could say like maybe a Najee Harris, but I don't think he's enough of an upgrade to where he's your definitive RB1. Now, he's basically like a healthy Brian Robinson. Like he doesn't miss games, but he's pretty much Brian Robinson. And so I think you're gonna have to attack running back aggressively in the draft within the first 3 rounds at least. One of those first round, second round, third round, give me a running back. Plus running backs, by the time they're reaching the second contract with all of that mileage, you have durability concerns. You have, they tend to start fumbling when they get older. They're not as strong. They're not as fast. And again, I'm looking for home run ability. I need a guy that can turn a typical 8-yard gain into a 70-yard touchdown. We need defenses having to, be disciplined and having to basically stay on their toes, worrying about that all of the time. That needs to be in the back of their head, that this running back that the Commanders have at any given moment can run past us. So we need a guy like that. Definitely address that in the draft.
No, definitely. And before you go, I just want to say the word I was looking for was rejuvenation. And I looked it up. There we go.
Oh, yeah, you good.
Rejuvenation is the word I wanted to say. And then also, someone commented a while ago during the season that made a good point that Brian Robinson slows down the offense. You guys know we're up-tempo. We want to go no huddle. We want to be quick. And so I say 1st and 10, you pick up a gain of 5. And you're like, let's go. JD's looking at Cliff like, come on, we go for it. And then you hand it off to Brian Robinson on 2nd and 5, and he either loses a yard or barely get back to the line of scrimmage. Now it slows down the offense. Instead of going up tempo again, you got to now re-huddle because that play really was dead. So that was a good point as well that they brought up. But Ed, I'll let you take it over now. How you feeling about the running back position and the Brian Robinson news?
JP Finley said that he believes that the Commanders will have a different starting running back, which is something that we all kind of thought going into the playoffs. Really, I mean, you look at the last couple of games of the season, the leading rusher was a quarterback. Like the Dallas game, Mariota led the team in rushing. The Falcons game, Jaden was the leader in rushing. The Eagles game, he threw 5 touchdowns. He led the team in rushing. The Saints game, I know you guys brought up the Titans game, but that was really like the last good game that B-Rob had. B-Rob had a solid game against the Lions. Like he had some good moments. He had 2 touchdowns, had a couple good runs, but other than that, he really wore down. He was burnt out, man. You could just tell, like he wasn't moving the same. Chris Rodriguez looked more explosive, and he struggled in pass protection too because Jaden really almost got hurt in that Falcons game where his leg, it just went the wrong way, and that was on B-Rob and him blocking. Like he got beat on that play. So they just need more explosiveness. You look at the other running backs in the league. And, going up against Saquon, we're going up against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. We're going up against Bucky Irving. And every team that we play against just has more talent at the running back position. Like, I know a lot of people say, we bring B-Rob to a Saquon Barkley fight or to a Jahmyr Gibbs fight. Like, it's just an unfair advantage that other teams have, man. And, like, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to hit on I love B-Rob, man. Like, he got shot, came back. Like, he's had some really good seasons. Like, the whole big hat thing, like, people wear big hats because of B-Rob. He's the one that put that big hat thing on, and people started wearing it. He had a good game in that game against the Falcons, and he went viral for that. Like, he's had some really good games throughout his 3-year career, but sometimes running backs, their shelf life really is, like, 2 or 3 seasons, and unfortunately, that might be the case for B-Rob. Like, he was hurt. He had a game time decision against the Giants at New York where Chris Rodriguez stepped up. Eckler had a good game. Then he missed there was a couple games he missed this year, man. So, like, I think he was worn down. He was burnt out. We just need more explosiveness at the running back position. Via the draft, this is one of the best running back draft classes in a couple of years. So, I mean, there's guys in the 3rd round, 4th round that, are super talented too. So, like, I mean, this is the year to get it done. Free agency, we'll see. There's not many options like J.K. Dobbins, Aaron Jones, and guys like that, Javonte Williams. So it's not like sexy names. But you look at the draft, man, like one of the Ohio State guys, somebody commented, Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal, Cam Scatterbo, Amarion Hampton. Like there's 10 guys that you can name that could come in as a rookie and probably get an 800, 900-yard, 1,000-yard season and 250 yards receiving and 3 receiving touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. Like there's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that can come in and do that this year coming up. So, I mean, you got to come in with better talent than running back at the running back room. You just have to. You have to.
Oh, and to your point, too, about the whole J.P. Finley thing that you started off with, because remember, J.P. Finley, like in the quote, is defending Brian Robinson. He's like, he loves Brian Robinson, but just the fact that he's still predicting us to go get another running back clearly shows that, like, this is probably what the Commanders are thinking. Like, even from his point of view, or we might be okay with Brian Robinson. To him, he thinks we're going to still go and get a running back one.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think we that is something that we desperately need. A lot of people have been talking about the guy Travion Henderson. I guess he's from like the DMV or whatever, from Ohio State, who they like a lot. The name that I really just can't get with is what is it, Skoranek or something like that. I just don't want to. He may be better than Brian Robinson, maybe shifty, maybe quicker, but I just don't want. Yeah, Scatterbo. That's his
Oh,
name.
you don't like John Riggins 2.0?
I mean, I think he's good. I just think he. I mean, do you think he fits our offensive style? Like, with already having a bigger back and like a Brian Robinson, like, or do you think genuinely like he can do that? You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say? Like, it's not that I don't think he's a good back.
Gibbs type.
Yeah, like I
Yes.
just because I don't necessarily want to get rid of Brian Robinson. I think he just genuinely is a like you said, not calling him a poor man's David Montgomery, but he's not David Montgomery, but he's kind of in that tier or that range, and that's kind of what I'm going for. So it's not that I don't want what's his name? How do you say it? I don't. Running back Scatterbo. It's not that I don't want him. I think he'll be really good. I just think we already have that kind of lane guy. But I could be wrong. He probably is really that dude. I don't know.
Yeah, I like him. He's my RB4, but I definitely prefer one of the Ohio State guys more. No, I'm RB5. My fault. I keep eliminating Aston Genty as if he doesn't exist because I know we have no chance of getting him. So really, he's my RB5. But out of the guys that we even have a chance of getting, he's my RB4. I have Omarion Hampton and both of the Ohio State guys over him for sure. But I like him. Like if we ended up with him, I mean, I feel like he's an underrated receiver, but yeah, he's not that fast. I feel like he's just a better Brian Robinson. And to your point, I would prefer a completely different running back, a Jahmyr Gibbs type of guy. I don't want like another David Montgomery.
Shout out to Protect Sports, man. Riggins 2.0. Shout out to Protect. Make sure y'all sub him up, man. Sub him up. But nah. Say, look, 70 chip in 2025. What was it, 70 chip or what? That the play that I guess won us the Super Bowl? Was it? I don't know if it was 82 or 91. I think it was 82, but 70 chip or something like that. Maybe we could bring that back in this year's Super Bowl, man, with Scatterbo. But yeah, nah, I definitely think we're going to upgrade that position because we need it, and we see the trajectory of the running back position, going back upwards with this transcendence of these new running backs. Or I wouldn't say new running backs because they're not new, but they're just second-winded. With Derrick Henry still, I remember a lot of people thought Derrick Henry was washed up. He gets to Baltimore, goes back to his old ways. Saquon Barkley healthy behind that offensive line, goes back to his old ways. So again, these guys aren't necessarily new and just making except for what Jahmyr Gibbs really like. They're not necessarily new, but they're just kind of in better situations, and that's kind of what we kind of want. And Hampton or the OSU guy, I'm cool with. That's where I've seen a lot of people also talk about the North Carolina running back Omarion Hampton. Do you think he's a realistic option, Ed? Is he second round? Like where is he mocked at right now?
Yeah, I see a lot of second round. So I mean, he could go before the 29th pick in the second round. I could see that happening. But I see a world where he falls to the second round where we're picking in the back of the draft. But no, he's a really good running back, man. He breaks a lot of tackles. He makes guys miss. He's got the speed. Making guys miss in a phone booth a little bit here and there. So he's just more elusive than B-Rob. That's what I like about him. So I mean, he would be an upgrade for sure. So I like Omarion Hampton a lot.
Definitely. All right, y'all. So now we're gonna get to the last position group of the offense. I really wanted to talk kicker as well because I mean that's not like the offensive group, but I don't know how y'all feel about this. I mean, we don't got to spend too much time on it, but I'm fine with Zane Gonzalez coming in as the starter because he kind of, quite frankly, earned it. But I'm not confident in saying that. I would love to bring him in as the starter of Kent, but I definitely would want us to see us bring in some type of competition for him. I would even bring back Austin Cybers to kind of let him compete. But quickly, what's your thoughts on that? And I guess we'll get to the offensive line, because that's some questions as well. But Rico, I'll start with you. Quickly, I guess, about the special teams, unless you wanted to go in depth. How you feeling about the kicker position going into the offseason to training camp? I know Justin Tucker's name isn't good, but I'm low-key hoping that they cut him, and then it comes out later that it was all false, and then we pick him up. That's most likely not going to happen, but just given the fact that we could have had Brandon McManus, I know he also did some crazy things too in the offseason, or at least was accused of, but then it later got cleared up, and then he went to another team and was pretty much serviceable. I think it was Green Bay who he went to.
Yeah.
He was pretty serviceable. How do you see us doing anything? Do you see us doing anything at the kicking position? And how do you, quite frankly, feel about it at this moment, Rico?
I'm uncomfortable with drafting a kicker, but we definitely need to bring in a handful of them. And we've already, it's been confirmed that we met with one kicker at the East West Shrine Bowl. That's why I was looking over here to get, because I remember I had a list of the guys we've already talked to. And then we met with two of them at the Senior Bowl. So they're clearly like looking at kicker. They know we need to figure out kicker right now. I remember, I think it was Dan Quinn that gave Lance Newmark the credit for like always like being the one to just find somebody, just so any kicker that we could bring in. That's how we ended up with Zane Gonzalez, Austin Cyber, all of these secondary options that we ended up with throughout the season. So Lance, I think Lance Newmark does deserve, at least a salute for that. None of them were great, but I mean, he did the best we could in the middle of a season to find somebody that could at least come in and make kicks for you. But I think they're going to be pretty aggressive, as aggressive as you could be realistically, as far as addressing the kicker position. I don't think they're going to go out there and trade for like a great kicker or anything like that from another team, like a starting kicker. I hope they don't draft one, doubt they will. But I trust they're going to find somebody at the kicker position when it's all said and done, more than likely as like an undrafted free agent or something like that.
Very, very interesting. And I'll give you a list too before you go about it. I mean, Nick Folk, he's 40 years old, so I don't know. I'm good off that. Matt Prater, he's 40 years old as well. These are a couple of free agents. Eddie Pinerio, Michael Badgley, Joey Sly. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe a reunite with him, because in my opinion, he always had the distance, just never the accuracy. So I don't know. Brandon McManus, Greg Joseph, and obviously Zane Gonzalez, Austin Cyber, K. York, and Spencer Strider is the free agent kicker. So I don't know if that's anything appealing to you, but how do you feel about the kicker position, Ed?
Yeah, it's concerning. I mean, Zane barely made the divisional doink, but the fact that it was a doink in the first place is concerning, and it was on a far kick to beat the Buccaneers. So he's not really. I think he had a solid season towards the end of the year. He did miss a kick against the Lions as well, but he did make a couple big kicks. They do need to bring in competition. I would say that for training camp at least. They should bring in another kicker to have some competition. But you named a lot of the options. They're not great. Like Cade York, we brought him in. He was awful. We had to cut him. Not Greg Zerline, but yeah, Zane Gonzalez, also Cyber, McManus, they're not going to bring him back. Joey Sly, they're not going to bring him back either. So, yeah, it's kind of like they probably will be stuck with who they have. But I do think they need to bring in competition, and I would not draft a kicker in the 6th or 7th round. I wouldn't spend any draft picks on a kicker. That's just my thoughts on kickers. But I would just bring in competition for Zane Gonzalez.
Okay, definitely. Sounds about right if you ask me for the kicker position as well. And then the last but not least, the offense position. Because, I mean, there's not a lot of defensive talk, in my opinion, outside of, like, edge rusher. I'm fine with the linebackers. We'll get to it, of course. But we spent a lot on the offense because that's where we, need the most improvements, if you ask me. But now to the offensive line for the last position group offensively. Rico, I'll go back to you. There's talks, obviously, Brandon Coleman, a lot of people are uncomfortable with his season, and they think that we need to upgrade there. Maybe even like, the interior offensive line as far as, with Cosme most likely missing a part of the start of the regular season. Bringing back potentially Cornelius Lucas as well for, Luke's been around for a long time. There's some questions on that offensive line. How do you feel about it headed into the offseason? How do you think they will upgrade it? And what do you think is the most important upgrade needs to be made for this offensive line next year?
Yeah, it's a weird situation because I feel like Brandon Coleman can still be a pretty good left tackle. I feel like he did a good job, especially with like chip help. He did a pretty good job against Myles Garrett. I feel like as he gets better, as he can stay healthy, he'll develop into an even better tackle. But I feel like if you move him in at left guard and then go sign one of the better left tackles available in free agency, that would be your best bet for having the most talent on the field at the same time possible. I still feel like Brandon Coleman is a good left tackle. If they don't move him to left guard, I'm not upset. I'm fine with that. You just got to figure out what you're going to do at the guard position going in. yeah, shouts out to Ed. I feel like you got to figure out what you do at guard because, now you have left guard and Nick Allegretti. I like him. I think he's a high-end backup, a slightly below average starter. So I prefer to not have to start Nick Allegretti, but if we do, then I guess that's fine. And then, of course, Samuel Cosme, I'm not expecting him to be ready by week 1 with him just getting surgery like a few weeks ago to fix his torn ACL. So, like, we really technically have like 2 guard problems. You can fix one of them by moving Brandon Coleman in at left guard, and then you go and get, I feel like my favorite option at offensive line period, but especially specifically tackle, is between Alaric Jackson and Ronnie Stanley. I would be ecstatic to get either one. Ronnie Stanley with his experience of blocking for an elite, a very mobile quarterback. I feel like that would translate very well with Jaden Daniels. I feel like there's a certain skill set and like a chemistry that it takes a while to learn how to do that. You can be a great offensive tackle all you want, but if you've never had to protect for a guy like Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson, there may be some growing pains there. There may be somewhat of an adjustment period. He's already done that. And then Alaric Jackson, I feel like he has the highest ceiling out of any tackle available. Because like Trey Smith, somebody's going to give Trey Smith ridiculous money. I highly doubt we'll be that team. So I've already kind of, just like Aston Genty draft wise, I've already just blocked out with Trey Smith as an option in free agency. So my favorite will probably be Ronnie Stanley, especially like a, nice, maybe 2-3 year option. And then you have the true left tackle that you may want to groom. Maybe you get a guy like a high ceiling guy later in the draft, I'm thinking. Or if you just get Alaric Jackson, that's your now and your future. So I would be really happy to get either one.
Okay. And as far as interior wise, outside of the Cosme injury, it seems like you're pretty fine with Biotis and Gritty and those guys. And obviously when Sam Cosme returns, we'll be fine internally. And that's just the honest truth. Like, in my opinion, without Tyler Biotis, the offensive line looked completely out of whack. They didn't know what they were doing, but with Biotis in there, he's like the glue. So we're fine when those guys are healthy. But quickly before Ed go, my man Ed got the arms folded, so we already know what time that is. It's all good. We go, my man. What is it? What does he always say? Look, he's Fruit Snacks is always the one to catch it as well.
Yeah,
always catching it.
Not today though. I ain't go to sleep or nothing like that today.
But I'll give you a couple names because I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, Jerron Christian, maybe a return with the old friend Jerron Christian who's still around in Cleveland, because I'm all for, upgrading the starters, but, I'm big on depth pieces as well across the board for every position group. So even if a Jerron Christian is obviously not a good starter, I would love to bring back Trent Scott, address the depth. Cornelius Lucas, this may be shocking to you because I've always been a Luke fan, but I think maybe we go younger. He's 33, 32 years old now. He's a free agent, so maybe you go younger there. But as Rico already brought up, Ronnie Stanley, Cam Robinson. I don't know if you go Tyron Smith, who's 34, just to hold it down for you. I don't know what your thought process is, Ed, on that, but go ahead and let it fly. Let me know what you think about the offensive line.
Well, yeah, the offensive line, Sam Cosme is going to be out for a couple of games with that ACL injury. So I do think they need to sign a right guard. To hold it down before he comes back. I think, honestly, he probably will miss 3 to 4 games of the beginning of the season. We'll see. Maybe they do work it out where he's available for game 1 of the season. Left tackle, Brandon Coleman starting. I'm fine with that. He just has some room for – he's a rookie. He played like a rookie sometimes. He had some really good games, and he had a couple games where he struggled. So I do think they should give him a developmental year this year. I'm fine with that. If they want to upgrade and move him to left guard, I'm fine with that too. But Biotis, of course, is your starting center. Wiley, if he doesn't get cut, he's your starting center. And then Brandon Coleman is starting at left tackle. So left guard is a little concerning to me too. Like Nick Allegretti, he struggled against the Eagles for sure in the playoffs. So I think if they can upgrade there at left guard, I think they should try to do that. But I think that's really the only moves you can really make on the offensive line because they view Brandon Coleman as a left tackle. I know a lot of people are saying he's a guard, but I think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, they like him at left tackle. So I think he's going to stay there at left tackle. But the biggest question mark other than that, too, is just Sam Cosme's health. Like, how are you going to help the offensive line while Sam Cosme most likely will miss at least 2 to 3 games to start the season on?
No, that's a good point, too, about Brandon Coleman quickly.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about, like, older skins.
Yeah.
I think Brandon Sheriff is a free agent. I get it. Like, I wouldn't be mad if they brought Brandon Sheriff back for, like, a 1-year deal or something like that. You know, if he wasn't chasing the money like he was a couple years ago when he ended up leaving us and just wants to win, then sure, I wouldn't bring him back. I wouldn't mind bringing him back on a 1-year deal to help out while Sam Cosby's injured.
No, yeah, it's insane. He's 33 years old, bro. I
Yeah.
still remember when we first drafted Brandon Sheriff, and he's already 33. But no, you did make a good point before we close the offensive side, and then we'll just run through the defensive side because we are over an hour, and of course, I don't want to keep you guys here too long. Brandon Coleman, left tackle. A lot of people have given up on him, at the left tackle position. But to your point, Ed and Rico, you can add on to it before we move on. I don't think they're ready to move off of him. I think they're going to stand pat. I think they made that decision to going into it knowing that it is a process, and I think that's what a lot of fans didn't do. They just and to their point, it's obvious. Like when you're out there starting, you expect to produce and give results. But if you know the context of the situation, you would have been maybe a little bit more patient with him before jumping to conclusion. Now he ultimately may be a guard, but I'm with you, Ed. At least give him 1 more year to see what he do. At least a half of 1 more year, and then if it gets to the point where it's just like, all right, he's super bad at left tackle, then you move on. Not telling you to not draft or sign any protection just in case, but I'm all for giving a young fella another shot. Wouldn't give up on him after 1 year. So, Rico, what you think specifically about that position? I mean, about Brandon Coleman. If you want to add anything else more to the offensive line, you can.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like Brandon Coleman at left tackle if that's the direction they want to go. I feel like ultimately, just more so because of Nick Allegretti than Brandon Coleman, I feel like our best bet would be to move Brandon Coleman into left guard, and then you go get a really good left tackle. Because again, Trey Smith, I highly doubt we're getting him in free agency. I don't really see too many starting left guard options out there for agency, and really even in the draft, especially with us picking 29th in the draft, and you're more than likely not going guard in the first round anyway. So to have like a true, dependable, good starting left guard, I think Brandon Coleman is your best option there over a Nick Allegretti, and then you go get your left tackle. Again, it's more of a Nick Allegretti problem than a Brandon Coleman one. I just see Brandon Coleman being a better solution at left guard. Then you go get Alec Jackson or Ronnie Stanley at left tackle.
Definitely. Let's see. We got says hi, my Cowboys fans. Sorry, and then he says Cowboys always beat the Commanders. Hey, look, man, that's fine. You can beat us, but I would definitely be glad that we're in a way better situation than you. Hey, good luck with Brian Schottenheimer. I don't know how that's gonna go out for you. I don't know what Dak is talking about. What he said? Didn't he say we're close to the Eagles or something like that? So I don't know what he's smoking on to make him feel like that. Zach Martin just retired, So, hey, man, it may be a little rough for Cowboys fans, but you can always sign that application to become a Commanders fan, man. We always look for more people to add to the bandwagon, but we'll quickly talk about defensively, because for me personally, of course, I want to upgrade defensively, but I think more of the issue is offense. So that's why we spend the bulk of the time talking about it. But I'll start with you, Jeremy Chin. He's potentially the most likely free agent to come back. You can talk a little bit about him, and do you want him back? And then what do you think is the most important position? Obviously, we already talked edge rusher, but to upgrade. Obviously, you got linebacker out there with Shaq Thompson, and a couple other guys, even if you want to go that route.
Yeah, I like Jeremy Chin. Unless he just like wants way more money than I'm expecting, I would like to bring him back. I mean, he already bet on this coaching staff. Like, he already clearly showed that he liked this coaching staff before he played under this coaching staff, because he signed a really cheap 1-year deal when other teams were reportedly offering him more money elsewhere. So he seems like the type of guy that would be willing to take a discount to stay. But who knows? Maybe he was like, I did that 1 year, I'm not doing that again. And then maybe he leaves, which is, maybe like a Talanoa Hufanga to reunite with Adam Peters from their time with the 49ers. I can see him being like a nice replacement option as like your box safety. I think Quan Martin, I would love a true super rangy free safety, but I think Quan Martin's going to keep getting better. And then maybe you can get a guy that, like, in certain packages you could bring in to be a true, like, rangy free safety. But I like Quan Martin a lot. I like Jeremy Chin in the box. I think that could work. I mean, it's not going to be like the best safety tandem in the NFL, but I think it'll be good enough, especially if we really focus on improving this edge rusher position, and we get like another really good corner. But yeah, I mean, defensively, edge rusher by far, I feel like is the thing we need to upgrade the most. But I think defensive tackle, especially looking towards the future with like Jonathan Allen being a cap cut candidate, and even if he's not, I mean, how much do you really expect to get out of Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne at this point? Even though Jonathan Allen looked great against the Lions, and then he disappeared again against the Eagles, and we just kind of can't afford to have that. I like Johnny Newton's potential. But he's got to get a little bit stronger so he can hold up against the run and things like that. And this is like, I think the deepest position group out of this entire draft is defensive tackle. So I'm pretty sure we're going to address that somewhere, maybe like second or third round, and get like a guy that can eventually start in place of Jonathan Allen or Daron Payne, probably sooner rather than later. So I'm not really, I feel like defensive tackle is a need, but I don't feel like it's a need I'm worried about. I'm worried about what we're going to do as far as like maybe how to, upgrade the cornerback position, or we're going for like a DJ Reed or a Travarius Ward opposite of Marshall Lattimore. Like you said, Mike Sanford still did a pretty good job outside, but I think ultimately this coaching staff prefers him inside. I feel like they only played him outside out of necessity. I think they want to move him back inside if they can. Because, I mean, if you look at all Dan Quinn corners, they're all long and, really athletic guys. And, Mike Sanford still is pretty small. He doesn't really fit the mold of a Dan Quinn outside corner. And I just think even I like him outside like you do, Juan, I think they're going to look to replace it. So we do got to find another corner. And we got to find a successor to Bobby Wagner. But, I've heard several reports that they feel like Jordan McGee can be that guy if he can stay healthy. So we'll see. But by far, edge rusher is by far the biggest need for this defense. I mean, that has to be the biggest focus arguably this entire offseason, to be honest.
And remember, before I let you go, remember they like similar to the Ben Simmons draft pick, they literally compared him and said, yeah, you're Kyle Juszczyk. Jordan McGee is literally Dre Greenlaw, supposedly. So a healthy Jordan McGee definitely could turn out to be Dre Greenlaw, which he's coming off of injury. But when he was healthy and at his best, him and Fred Warner were just like the best linebacker tandem in the NFL. And we could turn into the Washington 49ers. Talanoa Hufanga is out there, Travarius Ward was out there, and he said the next team that get him is going to get the best version of him. And I know Ed's not high on Debo, but I genuinely think with these two options gone now, with that being Chris Godwin and T. Higgins, he might be. And then the fact that he openly already requested a trade, like I would love DK Metcalf, I would love who's the other, Garrett Wilson, but those guys did not request a trade. The fact that he openly is looking for another team, I think Deebo Samuel is a realistic option here. And same with Cooper Kupp. Ed, I was on the fence with him as well. I was like, I'm not really feeling Cooper Kupp, but after those two guys gone, I'm like, hell, man, what else? We don't got nothing else to lose. We might as well take a chance on him. But Ed, I'll let you go defensively, and you could take us home with your defensive take and your defensive wrap up.
Yeah, Street Scores made some really good points. I think I'm kind of with him with edge. It's either edge or corner. I would say the trenches again. You look at the first play of the game where Saquon ran on the edges and got the touchdown. Like, we need somebody to set the edge and set the tone and get out there and slow down the run game. We just don't have that. So I think Myles Garrett would be a huge help. We just need to upgrade at that pass rushing spot. We need to get to the quarterback more too. Like, I feel like we did. Like, Frankie got to the quarterback. Dante did a good job of that, but I feel like there's more opportunities for us to finish plays, get sacks, pressure the quarterback. We just didn't do that enough in the NFC Championship game. We got to force more turnovers too. So I think Myles Garrett is a guy that definitely forces fumbles. He does it all on defense. So for me, it's really close. Corner is close because you have to let go of Michael Davis. Noah who knows what's going to happen with him? De'Ami Brown. The cornerback, Michael Davis, awful. Ben St. Juice, gone. They're not going to bring any of these guys back. So, corner, like, there's not a lot of guys under contract. I think it's just Marshawn and Mikey and Bobby Price. After that, it's a bunch of practice squad guys. You don't have a lot of guys under contract. Like I said, Mike Davis gone, Ben St. Juice gone, and a lot of the guys are on 1-year deals or their contract is up and they're not going to – they shouldn't be brought back. Like, you cannot have another cornerback room with some of these guys that started last year or had a lot of snaps. So, honestly, some days you look at it, you're like, yeah, we need an edge rusher more than a corner. Some days you may look at like, yeah, we need corner more than edge rusher, especially with the NFCs, the wide receivers. We got to go up against Malik Neighbors twice, Eagles receivers twice, CeeDee Lamb twice. Like, you got a lot of talent that you're going up against twice a season. So, but to answer the question, yeah, I think edge rusher is a little bit more important just because of the trenches. You got to set an edge. You got to stop the run. The run defense was not good last year. We got to improve on that for sure.
Yes, sir. And we're about to get out of here in a second. Gregory Pat says, "Let me be GM. We'll be broke." Yeah, he's talking about get Tyreek Hill, Debo Samuel, messing with Mr. Gregory, man. We'll be in that Saints negative 54 million territory, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, but all right, y'all. We're about to get up out of here. So before we go, though, I do want to get one last comment from both of you all. Rico, I'll start with you. Give me, I guess, one bold prediction for this free agent trade destination, and then give me one realistic, thing you think is going to happen. And honestly, guys, I'm just gonna prepare you. It may sound, I guess, bold and realistic at the same time because Myles Garrett is bold, but that's a realistic option. So have at it, but give me like a bold one and the most realistic thing that you'll think go down this free agency and trade.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a cheat code to pick this one, but I don't know. I have this feeling about Myles Garrett. I don't know if y'all saw this report slightly over a week ago where it was like, we're still not interested in trading them, but stay tuned. And okay. And once they folded a little bit, once they showed any chink in the armor, I'm like, hey, it sounds like they may, because at first they were definitive. We're never going to trade them. There's no way we trade them. Don't even call us. We're not trading them, even if you offer multiple first round picks. Now there's this stay tuned that's been thrown out there. So, and if the whole thing with Myles Garrett, my only worry is if the Browns are actually willing to trade him. If the Browns are willing to trade him, I feel like we are by far the most obvious answer for where he would land, just as far as Super Bowl contender, ridiculous cap space, serious need. And then shouts out to Mina Kimes and all those reporters at the Super Bowl week doing the Lord's work over there, keep asking and throwing Jaden Daniels' name in there and forcing them to ask about him and things like that. And so I think Myles Garrett, man, I really think it's a real thing. I really do. But I guess to make it more bold, I wouldn't be surprised if we trade for Myles Garrett and still sign another edge rusher that's a familiar name that we're all aware of. Maybe even give Hassan Reddick on a really cheap deal, even after you trade for a Myles Garrett.
Nah, definitely. And I honestly, that's the route I want to go down because I want to overhaul this whole defensive line. I'm talking about, even though I know it isn't going to happen, I'm a fan of no Deron Payne, no Jonathan Allen, because they were just trash. In my opinion, not living up to the contract. And then obviously the edge rushers weren't as good. I want Dante Fowler back, but then some more. But all right, Ed, I'll let you take us home with the bold one and then the most realistic one you think is going to happen.
Oh, man, bold. Yeah, trading for Myles Garrett is a good one. I'm going to say I hate to say it, but I do think they make a move for Debo. I think they wait for him to be released. And just that Adam Peters connection, I do think I think they're gonna have interest in Debo. I think they may bring him in. I got a weird feeling that they'll bring him in on but just because you got the 49er connection there with Adam Peters and Debo Samuel. So I can see a world where we get him. Most realistic is I'm gonna go defense again. Oh, Charvarius Ward. I think they do sign Charvarius Ward. That's another 49er connection. You need a corner. If they can get the 2023 Charvarius Ward, that would be a huge upgrade from what we had last year. And I think he would help Marshawn out too. Just having two guys who are really physical that can stick with receivers, that would do wonders for the defensive line too.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he kind of like AJ Brown's kryptonite or something like that? Doesn't he give AJ Brown problems every time they match up? So hey, that is definitely good. But all right, fellas, I appreciate y'all for coming on as always. Gregory Pat, I'm your mind, G-Man, Uptown Dre Jefferson. Everybody shop with Charles. Everyone that tuned in, and I appreciate y'all for checking us out. These are my guys, and y'all already know who is self-explanatory. My guy Ed and Rico almost at that 30K mark. That is insane, man. Shout out to y'all for putting in that hard work, man. That's crazy. Again, look, coming from the ground up, especially y'all, you know what I'm saying? Ed, always got to give Ed his specific flowers because he literally is the reason I started my page. First guy I came across. Then I seen my guy, obviously Rico and all those. but we weren't. I gotta give you guys your quick flowers because obviously before we get out, but we're not Dallas. We're not the Giants. Like we're not the Eagles. We never had this humongous content creator, 100,000 subscribers, and now you guys are finally getting the recognition that you deserve. And like, man, it's insane to finally see us all the years. Like none of the other teams in the NFC, maybe the Giants, no other team in the NFC East had to go through what we had to go through and constantly put up the videos. Ed's one of Ed's most famous videos having to talk about DJ Swearinger getting cut for no reason. I'm still salty about that. Just because he held Greg Manusky accountable, he had to get cut, man. But nah. What you about to say? If I say anything?
Oh no,
it's crazy too. He would love it here right now. Oh, DJ Swearinger would love what we got going on right now.
Nah, yeah, definitely. But I always got to give you guys your flowers, man. Y'all killing it. Continue to keep it up, the great work. And, of course, I'm already know we're going to lock horns again. Probably a couple more times throughout the offseason, especially when the big trades and draft results come out and stuff like that. So I appreciate y'all for always taking time out y'all night for stopping by and joining me. And any final words either one of you got for the chat before we get out of here?
Nah, man, just thank you for having me on, man. Congrats on 8K, almost at 9K. Definitely, you're gonna be at 10K very, very soon, man. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Love your videos, man, for sure.
Thank you, man. You know that's like LeBron talking to I don't know. I'm trying to use a younger guy, but nah, definitely because Ed's the first guy. And big reason I started it, man. So shout out to Ed and Rico. Shout out to you, of course, as always, holding it down, going crazy. Probably about to upload an hour banger that I get to watch. I watch going to sleep on the TV. And I'll go to sleep watching the marathon. I wake up, man, Rico on the TV again with another marathon on there, man. So shout out to you for putting in that hard work, man. Y'all are the best, man. Definitely.
Yes, sir. Man, I'm really excited about the combine. This is I'm gonna have that up like 24/7. I'm just gonna go ahead and have a whole screen dedicated to just NFL Network. I'm gonna be rooting for my Georgia Bulldogs, but I'm also gonna be looking to see what guys Adam Peters is looking at because I think it was Ryan Fowler that pointed out that like a lot of the top short shuttle guys are the guys that we ended up drafting, and we also drafted just like the best relative athletic score guys in the draft as well. We had like the highest relative athletic score average out of any NFL team draft class last year. So this combine really matters for us. Like some teams may look, try to, take into account what they do at the combine and things like that. This team, based off of what we did last year, definitely is going to take, if you see any outstanding performers within like this next week, just keep an eye on them for the Commanders.
Definitely. So I appreciate y'all for coming on again. And as always, being boy Juan Gotti, like, comment, subscribe. Ed and Street Scores, Rico always spitting the gospel about our Washington Commanders. So appreciate it again. I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.
Yes, sir.